Hello and welcome to this episode of Kennedy Saves the World. So last night's joint address to Congress is all anyone could talk about because if nothing else, it was wildly entertaining. And Jason Chaffetz joins me now. You were a member of Congress for quite some time. What was your
Yeah.
leadership position in Congress?
I was chairman of the Oversight Committee, and
Okay.
I've sat through 10 of those types of addresses. 8
Oh,
with
wow.
Barack Obama, 2 with Donald Trump, and yeah.
Is Donald Trump the best at State of the Union type speeches? Because
Oh, yeah.
they're always very, very well produced. It started out a little slow, but he stays so much more on message for those speeches. But the way that he works the gallery is unlike anything I've ever seen. And I don't think I've gotten through one of his and I get really bored by his campaign speeches because I find that like they can be funny, but they go on too long and he can be a little undisciplined. Now with these, he does an incredible job of casting them. And at
Yeah.
first, but I have to, is he the best to have done it?
I think he is the best because he helps tell the story, illuminate his policies by personifying them with real Americans. And look, Barack Obama did the same thing, but it wasn't the same. It just didn't have the same intensity as Donald Trump. He's really figured this out, and he does stay on message. And he doesn't, there's like 1 or 2 times he kind of ad-libbed, but they were funny. They were genuinely funny. But I think he thinks a lot about what he wants to say, and it's highly effective. And the Democrats were just so silly. I mean, they were just so
What did they think they were going
embarrassing.
to accomplish? Because they have been so widely mocked for the memeable
Yeah.
black signs that, people were saying it looked like a cross between bingo signs and someone at an auction.
Yeah, and they just held them up the whole time.
Yes, no.
And they didn't think they were going to get
Elon steals.
a little editing maybe that
Yeah.
they would change the sign. I mean, they're kind of idiots that way. They were going to play possum. Here's the thing that's a disconnect. When Barack Obama was the president and he came in and did this, when the first lady walked in the room, I stood up and applauded. And when he recognized ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things, we all stood up and applauded. Democrats, it bothers me to no end, particularly Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Of all the people there, she really bothered me. You have a cancer survivor. I joined her in a bipartisan way. She's a cancer survivor. My mother passed away from cancer. My father passed away from cancer. You have this young kid who's 13 surgeries.
DJ Daniel. I
DJ
love that kid.
Super. There is nothing more American than what that kid had to go through when he slapped the high five
When he
the
went
young
over
man.
to Jason Hartley, who
Yes.
got his acceptance to West Point. I mean, that was another one.
Gives him a high five. That's as American
What a
as
sweetheart.
it gets, right? And Debbie Wasserman Schultz couldn't even take her hands together.
Yeah.
And don't be telling me you've got your cancer pin on, because that's just show for you.
Yes.
If you're going to do that, if you can't recognize somebody outside of your own political party, a 13-year-old boy, it's just shame on you.
It's such a stupid trap to fall into. Like,
Yes.
I understand they
Yes.
want attention. I understand they want to protest. I get all of that. But, the trap that he's laying out is I'm going to highlight a steel worker named Jeff, who is also the chief volunteer firefighter who has fostered 40 kids. It's like, you're not going to stand up for that guy?
Exactly.
Like, what is wrong with you?
about
And
them-
it's okay to do that. It's okay to be like, hey, we don't like your politics, but we love the American story. We love people who give back. We love people who overcome, and we support people who have been through loss. You can still do that while protesting Donald Trump, and they don't want to give him that, but what they withheld from so many people kind of felt disgusting.
And that's where, look, love of country, they just kind of personify. Like, the people that literally went to some T-shirt shop, decided to make a shirt that said resistance on the back, get up in the middle of the speech and walk out. I mean, that's how insane this was. And look, you can disagree on policy, but if you disagree with everything, then you're not really creating a case. You're
No.
just saying, oh, we're the resistance.
All you're doing is looking for attention. You're not looking for solutions.
Yeah.
And that's what people want. And people, the reason he got votes in a new coalition was because it was a way forward, and people are sick of the division from both sides.
Yes.
It's not like they're sick of Democrats. They're sick of division. It's not like these people are going to be lifelong Republicans. You have to make good on those promises. And to his credit, he's trying.
Look, the core thesis of the Democratic Party was diversity, equity, inclusion. It was tolerance. but they
Those are
personified.
two completely different things.
But they
They've
would.
become so disconnected from each
But
other.
they personified none of that,
Yeah.
because if you're going to do inclusion, can't you include somebody in your side? If you're going to be diversity, these people are like the least tolerant, the least diverse, because if they have anybody who wears an elephant on their shirt, as their political party, then they're not going to agree with you on
Yeah,
anything.
you're the enemy, you're the devil.
That
I
is
am
not
now
what look
walling myself off from you. And that's not what people want. People, the reason they made a coalition is because they want a coalition. They want people to work together to make their
That's
lives
right.
better.
That's right.
And it's like when Rashida Tlaib has her whiteboard that says start paying your taxes. Everyone watching that is like, oh, I've been paying my taxes. And apparently I've been paying my taxes that fund Social Security for dead people. Like
Yes.
long dead people, like really super, super dead people. I've been paying my taxes. And if you talk to any rich people, they're like, oh no, we pay way more than our fair share.
Yeah.
And what do we get? What's our return on investment
Yeah.
for that? And so, this thing, looking at ways to cut out the corruption in government, and look at what Milei has done in Argentina. It is possible. It is possible to make
Yeah.
government cuts and to tame inflation. And I hope that Elon Musk is successful, because I think about you a lot when I look at the definition of the deep state and the people who are so entrenched and unfireable
Yeah.
in government. And now that's one of the things I was reading in Axios that they're pushing back against, like the ability to remove workers who are not good at their jobs, which should be the right of any employer. But you wrote an entire book about that.
Yeah, I've written a couple of the Puppeteers book. We talked about there are hundreds of billions of dollars going out the door to these quote unquote NGOs, these non-government organizations. And by the way, the more I've looked at this, the more I'd argue you are a government organization if you're going to take the government's money.
If the only way you've got funding is through the government, then you are by
Exactly.
proxy a government organization.
You would think, right? So, but Democrats at least gave lip service at one point to getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. We have 72 inspectors general that hire about 13,500 people. You can go to oversight.gov right now, and they will show you literally by the tens of billions of dollars of things that they have looked at under the hood in a nonpartisan way
Yeah.
that should be dealt with and gotten rid of, because they're taking money out of your wallet and giving it to somebody else, and it's being abused. Can't we be united on that and say, all right, here are the ones we agree with and what we disagree with? But I think the public, the antics, yeah, they get clicks. They're kind of clickbait on TikTok and Instagram and all that. I get it. But what they want is they want some adults in the room that'll just work together. We don't
Yeah.
have to agree on everything. But
No, they want things to be
want it
affordable. They
and
want a
that-
better way of
that's-
life. It's so
This is why they think it was
simple.
the worst possible State of the Union or joint session of Congress that I've ever seen the Democrats do, because you can't resist everything all the time.
No,
It comes across as anti-American.
Yes, it doesn't make any sense. And I'd read that Hakeem Jeffries didn't want the showboating. Like he didn't want the protests because
Yeah.
it gets them off message. Because
Yeah.
every single individual person there are like, look at me, I'm the message. And it's like, well, you're really not, because you're not working with anyone else.
But what is their message? I think the problem for the Democrats is they don't have a key leader. They're leaderless at this point. But what is their message?
Yeah.
Other than resistance? And 2/3 of the country going into the election said the country's on the wrong track. They wanted to go a different direction. And what is that? The Democrats have yet to define that.
No, the Democrats offered a lecture.
Yeah.
The Democrats offered Bidenomics is working. I don't know what you people are talking about. You're dumb. You're underinformed, because if you look at all these metrics, if you look at the information that we've got, things are actually great, and
Yeah.
you're welcome. And their pocketbooks don't lie. Their
Yeah.
inability to buy things and create a better way of life is compromised.
Yeah.
And you can't. It's so incredibly condescending.
Don't go anywhere. More Kennedy Saves the World right after this.
And the other thing that I have an issue with, if we're talking about rampant spending, is Ukraine. And I've had
Yeah.
a philosophical problem with that from the beginning. Obviously, I don't like war. I hate civilian casualties. I think Putin is a bully. I think that, what he did was immoral. I think he's in the wrong. Having said that, I don't think we should be funding a war of attrition for another decade that gets millions of people killed. I think that that is even more immoral. And the fact that Elizabeth Warren is applauding that. I mean, that's what they
It's
are
the only
applauding.
thing they did applaud.
Yeah, and you know, we're not going to beat Russia in the sense that they would like in terms of a happy Rocky IV ending. And I realize like that would be satisfying for so many
That
people.
was a good movie.
But it was a great movie.
Yeah.
But at what cost? And that's what Americans have come to. It's like, this costs too much.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we don't care, but it's like, why us? You know, at some point, you have adult children. Do you want to pay for everything like you did when they were in elementary school?
Yeah, no, you've got a real libertarian streak, and I do too. I think when Donald Trump very succinctly said, "I want to put an end to the war," they're not killing Americans, but there are so many thousands of people on a daily basis dying on both sides. I think it was like, yeah, America's saying, yeah, we want to help be a conduit to ending this war. I thought it was actually a pretty strong point, but the Democrats, is the only thing they applauded was continuing to perpetuate this for another 5 years.
Didn't they used to be the party of peace? Weren't they the
They used to.
Vietnam War protesting peaceniks?
I
And
don't know.
now the roles have completely reversed.
Isn't that weird?
Yes.
To have a Kennedy with all the...
I mean, that was really funny.
different Kennedy.
There were two things. There were two
Yes.
RFK moments that made me laugh. One was when Donald Trump was going through the list of people over 100 years old who were still on Social Security, and when he said that there are 130,000 people on the Social Security rolls, 160 years plus.
Yes.
And he looked at Bobby Kennedy, goes, I don't know, the country's a lot healthier than I thought,
That was a
Bobby.
good moment.
That was so funny. And then the other one was he was talking and he
how
says to the
quick-
Democrat, he's like, "Oh, you're not applauding for Kennedy?"
How quickly you forget.
Yes.
Are you related, by the way?
No,
I bet
No.
you are somehow.
not even a little. No, it's my middle name.
Yes, I'm still
No,
good.
my parents were Camelot Democrats.
No, okay.
Yeah,
All right, fair
they
enough.
always liked the name and what it represented. Truth be damned.
No,
But
but Kennedy ended up being a very...
he cut
across
taxes.
the board. I mean, and the difficult things that Kennedy dealt with at the time, he made America stronger. He did.
I mean, he was definitely a stronger president than Johnson.
Well, yes, you could say that.
You know, Johnson didn't get us out of Vietnam.
No.
Kennedy certainly got us into it.
Kennedy saved the world.
But he almost blew it up. He came pretty
Well,
close.
sometimes you have to get close to save it.
Do you think this president will save the world? How much of it is bluster, and is there the action that we've seen early on in his presidency, will that bear long-term fruit?
Oh, I think so. I think on both. I think people want safety and security. They want safety in our streets. I think what's happened on immigration and going after these sanctuary cities and putting cops on the beat, I think that's a good thing for people who are concerned about safety and security in the streets. But I also think they want safety and security in their wallets.
Yes.
And
I think
that's going to take a little bit more time.
But both those things, like people
Yes.
deserve to not feel like they have to look over their shoulder because they're
Economic
in danger
certainty.
everywhere they go.
Yeah.
And people also deserve to feel like they can exhale and not be in constant survival mode because that kind of stress
Yes.
shortens people's lives.
And look, that's going to be measured. You know, you had the Secretary of Treasury say they're going to have an affordability czar. But what is that? Why do we need one of those? It's because there are key metrics, things they're going to people look at in terms of their energy bill, their mortgage, their grocery bill. These are the things that the overwhelming majority of Americans didn't watch the speech last night,
Yeah.
right? They're not engaged politically. Most people on my street didn't watch it, didn't even know what was going on. One of my neighbors called me during it, said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "I have to call you right back." So, but that's how they measure it, right? And it's on Donald Trump's watch right now. But I am amazed. I think anybody would have to be amazed objectively that in the first, whatever is 35, 40 days, that list of accomplishments is usually what you do at the end of 4 years
Yeah.
and what he's able to do. So, but a lot of this now goes to the Congress. Donald Trump's, I think, doing everything he can, working as hard, but Congress is a team sport. A week from Friday is the funding of the government. That's a tougher vote than people think, this continuing resolution that's a clean CR.
Well, Massey's going to vote no.
Well, and so you got one more that you can give up. And a lot of people are going to look at it and say, wait a sec, you just showed us tens of billions of dollars that you're cutting. And now you want us to vote you want us as conservatives to vote to fund that? I'm not doing
I mean, it
that.
doesn't make any sense. I'm with Massey on that one. Like
So-
that's why the
This is why I'm
people
saying it's a tough
of the
vote.
great Commonwealth of Kentucky keep electing him
Yeah.
because he's a man of principle and he knows that we can't keep spending. It's like you can't kind of save a little bit here and then spend even more here and call it good. And also, they need to balance the budget.
Yes.
Like when he said that, I really feel like he means it. And I can't believe it has been as long as it
So-
has since we've had a balanced budget.
In the argument, only one time since the 1972 Budget Act is it balanced. Newt Gingrich was Speaker, Bill Clinton was the president. And did you know that they actually held a hearing in the United States Senate? What would happen if our debt was zero? How would the Federal Reserve operate?
Oh,
They had a hearing. Like,
Yeah.
what would we do if we
Yeah.
had no debt?
let's close it down.
Yes.
Yeah, let's end the Fed.
So,
Let's find out.
yeah, let's find out. But they literally had a hearing about that because they were kind of panicked that there wasn't going to be a debt
Do you
that they
think the
could
gold
manipulate.
card could pay off the debt?
Maybe not alone.
Pay down the debt, I should say.
Look, I think between tariffs, I think you're seeing the molding of a bigger, broader plan that comes together, particularly if you can also add the energy production, which provides the royalties here. And remember, there's no tariffs on U.S. made product. And the president is starting to announce literally billions upon billions of dollars of investment. Do we have the workforce to do it? You know, do we have the people that can actually get those jobs? If we're going to have a whole new shipbuilding industry in the United States, probably good long term. Not going to happen by, July. But can we get this whole thing turned around? Yes. Can we balance the budget fast enough? I don't know. But the point being is a week from Friday, it's not on Donald Trump, it's on Congress.
Yeah.
And so the question is, do you continue on for 10 months into the Trump administration with no cuts? And I think the argument's changing. I interviewed Chip Roy yesterday. I was guest hosting on The Bottom Line. And his argument was, yes, you do pass this, and then you have rescissions afterwards. Is that argument going to win the day?
And has the government ever been trustworthy?
Kennedy, I'm just saying, this will be the debate between now and next Friday.
All right. Well,
Because it's a tough one, because the speaker's trying to sell us on keep this current spending levels through the end of September, and let's do reconciliation. And there's still a divide. One big, beautiful bill, or do you do tax cuts, or do you do safety and security? Do you combine those into one big, beautiful? They got to figure that out. They can't decide what they're
I'm
going to have for
never a
Chick-fil-A.
fan of one big, beautiful bill because we get one big, beautiful bill that's loaded with pork, and that is so
on
high in cholesterol.
reconciliation's a little different because you can't, quote unquote, load it up
Yes.
with pork. But is it deep enough to have the cuts that it's worthy to pass? I don't know.
Only you
Hope
know.
so.
You have been there. You have overseen the oversight, and we need more of that. We need grown-ups in the room,
Yes.
and we'll see. It's nothing short of interesting and entertaining, just like last night. And now I think we're all looking forward to the State of the Union next year. He's got 3 more cracks at bat. Can he top himself?
Awesome.
All right.
Love it.
We'll see. It was an amazing night for so many reasons, and we didn't even talk about Al Green, which I thought was going to be the wildest.
Thought
moment
we
of the
were
night.
going to get through that.
But
That was so planned and
it
canned.
was
He
so
was
planned.
ready to do
they
it.
both wanted it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jason Chaffetz.
Thank you.
This has been Kennedy Saves the World, along with Jason Chaffetz. I'm Kennedy.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app. Oh, go ahead and leave me a review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you have to say. You've been listening to Kennedy Saves the World on the Fox News Podcast Network.